We're back talking about the consequences of inaction by governments, excuse me, in our own country and around the world. Time magazine's person of the year is the protester, representing the disenfranchised of this earth from Tahrir Square to Zuccotti Park, all of them frustrated by the juxtaposition of record poverty among the 99% next to the record profits of the 1% next to the obviously corrupt and rigged methodology that is being used by that 1% to preserve the current status quo government architecture using money. There are consequences to this. And it is not just economic ones. Social injustice, when unabated, can create levels of violence that lead, indeed, to war. So how long until we collectively return to a world where it is not us versus them, but it is just us with compassion and resolve? And how do we do that? Back with us today is the Sheriff of Wall Street, former New York Attorney General, and Governor Elliott Spitzer. And Governor, it's nice to have you back.
Dylan, always great to be here.
You became widely known in this country a long time ago by virtue of the incredibly aggressive nature that you took and posture that you took as Attorney General in New York relative to financial institutions.
Right.
You have continued to be very vocal since that time in every capacity that is available to you to continue to make that point.
Right.
Folks look at you and they think, well, maybe Elliott just hates banks, or maybe Elliott just hates bankers, or whatever, and maybe Elliott's just upset about it, or Dylan, whoever it is. The fact of the matter is, there are the stakes for global economic dysfunction and wealth inequality are remarkably high, and I'd like to hear what you think they are and what motivates you to be so aggressive for so long.
Look, first, let's keep it domestic to the United States. What got me so upset was that we saw, many of us saw, you, I, many others, a cataclysm coming if we did not address the structural problems. If you believe in capitalism as a wealth-creating form of economic structure, as I do, it needs to work properly. It isn't working properly here, which means we're getting this enormous bifurcation. The 1% is doing extraordinarily well, and the 99% are not doing well. The evisceration, the destruction of our middle class over the last 30 years is the most important social trend that we have failed to observe until very recently. This has been going on for decades. Only now are we beginning to appreciate the social costs, the economic costs, the political costs. Just one little one, the political volatility that we're seeing. In one election, we swing to the left. Next election, the Tea Party. The next election, we're angry at the Republicans. People are grasping for answers, none of which have been presented to them, and that's why it's whiplash politics. People are desperate for an answer.
When you look to history of economic dysfunction as it relates to unemployment and social unrest, and you look at the decision after World War I to not reconcile, but to hold Germany specifically account for the debts that it did create in the context of prosecuting that war, only to watch the unemployment rise in Germany, to watch the hyperinflation emerge and the money printing in Germany, to pay back the reparations, and then you watch the resolution after World War II, which was catalyzed through unemployment and a lot of this distress. The decision after World War II was to give Germany forbearance on its debt, to give Japan forbearance on its debt, to institute mercantilism, to create flow of capital like we do now to China, to those countries, and then roll out a Marshall Plan. How determinative is the quality of that decision-making as to what happens?
Look, I love being a guest here because you can just give the speech and I can just say, Dylan, you're right. No, I love it. I want to say, you are right. That's exactly the right historical metaphor. After World War I, reparations, we said to the Europeans, Germany in particular, pay. What it led to
pay or else.
Pay or else, and we drove Germany over a cliff, which of course contributed to the rise of the Third Reich and the absolute horror, the most horrifying political movement of the last century. Now, after World War II, what we learned was that if you expand the economic universe, the Marshall Plan, we created 50 years of prosperity, growth, pulled more people out of poverty than ever in the course of history. That is the model we have to embrace. I don't think we're doing it right now. We're not investing that way, not permitting flow of capital where we need it to go. That is precisely the model we need.
Do you believe that there is anybody in the federal government of the United States, the president, leaders in our House of Representatives, leaders in the Senate, or aspirants to the Republican nomination to the presidency who share the view you and I are discussing?
Look, certainly, I don't mean to be rankly partisan, but I don't think I've heard anything on the Republican side side. I think, interestingly, bizarrely, Newt Gingrich, given his sense of history, is the only one you think maybe on some days is going to have a light bulb go off, and because he does appreciate history. Mitt Romney has just embraced lock, stock, and barrel, sort of the litany of conservative tropes about cutting taxes, and I don't think he really, bizarrely, because he is from the financial sector, I don't think he quite is willing to articulate. He may get it. He won't say out loud what will generate real growth. On the Democratic side, yes, I think there are people in the White House, there are people who were in the Obama candidacy who understand. And I always go back to Joe Stiglitz, I always go back to Paul Krugman, I go back to Robert Reich as the three sort of leading voices who write, who articulate the sorts of investment. Give you an example. The Treasury today went into the bond market, borrowed at virtually zero. If you can get money at zero, because as you always point out, we're the reserve currency, and you can get a return on that investment of 2, 3, 4, 5% per year, do it. That's what the government should be doing. We shouldn't be concerned right now about the deficit nearly as much as we should be concerned about the lack of investment capital in the areas where we need it.
Very quickly, can you release the type of activity that you're discussing without doing some sort of global debt restructuring on a sovereign level, a la Germany, Japan after World War II, and at the next threshold down, without at least addressing the swaps market, which specifically trades in private, and I can't tell the difference. No one can tell the difference between valid or speculative swaps.
Look, probably not. I don't pretend to be an expert in the swaps market. I can say I don't think what they've done in Europe is a long-lasting resolution. Read Martin Wolf's columns in the FT. Absolutely brilliant critique. There has not been a fundamental readjustment of the European economy. Talk domestic for a minute. We have deleveraged the wrong way. Why? We have taken all that private debt that the banks built up, moved it over to the public sector. Now, I'm not as concerned about the public debt as some others are, because I'm worried about a lack of investment in education, infrastructure, human capital. That's what we need to do. And if we don't do that soon, we're going to be in trouble.
All right. Do you mind if we call you the Sheriff of Wall Street?
You can call. I've been called anything and everything.
I'm sure
Dylan,
well, listen, but I think that's the name that'll stick when it's all said and done,
right,
Governor.
Thank you
so much. Elliot Spitzer, we'll see him sooner rather than later.